Well, welcome to episode 2, only 2 of the Hear Me Here podcast. We got a legend here today, guys. An absolute legend. Was a longtime RNT staffer. Famously producer of RNTV, and obviously the star of that. 2006 World Duck Calling Champion, 2 U.S. Open wins, and now is the VP of Development at Drake Waterfowl, one of my favorite brands on the planet. Everybody welcome Jimbo, or as I guess publicly known, Jim Ronquest. How's it going, man?
Good, buddy. Good. Cool setup, man. Glad to be on the second one. Man, that's awesome. Be on the front end of this thing.
I know, right?
Pretty cool.
On the ground floor.
Ground floor, man. Here we go.
I know. So it's I had first one, I guess, a week ago. I was playing music for Jim Shockey's charity, like for veterans that we do every year, and got to have him kind of from the big game from that world, and then episode 2 go into the duck world. We are actually at Callapalooza 2025 right now. There is so much going on outside of these walls. It's unbelievable. We've got all the call makers are here. Collectors are here. We've got cooking tournaments going on. Bago tournament at some point. VIP night last night. Pints and pins tonight. Just one of the coolest events on the planet. If you're listening to this and haven't been, it is worth the drive to Stuttgart to come to Callapalooza. If you care at all about duck hunting or duck calls, you should be here. You really should.
If you're a duck caller, and it's a cool thing. And it's fun. I was, here from as an employee to seeing it now as we sponsor the event and whatnot, and how much it's grown the past few years.
Oh, even from last year to this year, I told John earlier, I was like, the parking lot is twice as full as it was last. I mean, there was a bunch of tents here last year, but it could be because of that massive Drake truck that's out there. That is one of the coolest things I've seen. I saw a picture of you, I guess, online with it, but until you see it in person, it's ridiculous.
It's a very cool rig. It was fun to get to use this duck season. The bed and all the work was done by the folks up in Jonesboro at D&W Automotive. So if you really go back out there and look at it, that whole flatbed system is all custom built. All the drawers and everything, that's from the ground up custom build.
That thing is so cool. It's fun. That's where I grew up duck hunting. It was in Jonesboro with
cool.
a guy, with Charles Petty.
Brother Charles will be here tomorrow helping out with the contest.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him. It's been a really, really long time. My dad and his really good friend Steve met him at, I believe, a thing that used to happen in Atlanta called Buckarama. I think it still happens, but
still happen.
It's not to the scale of what it was. I remember it was at the old Expo Center, and we'd be ready for months in advance. And I remember we met Charles there, and we went duck hunt with him. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years. And such a cool guy. And he had a guy working with him, Nathan. I forget his last name. He had a guy working with him.
Yeah, I can't think of Nathan's last name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I still have the hat. Northeast Arkansas Outfitters, I think was the hat.
I believe that's correct.
And
Nathan's family owned a bunch of ground on Black River.
Yes.
Good, very nice young man, good deal. And I think speaking out of school a little bit, but I think he and Charles still work together. So.
That's awesome. Charles is such a good guy. And I told someone earlier, my first experience out here at Rich-N-Tone, I've actually written this up, and it's been published. GON published it in Georgia, but I came out with my dad, who he had bought a call from Butch long time, like way before the shop, like early, and he brought us to the shop. Me and my brother walk in, and I don't think Butch was in the greatest mood that day. He was a little yeah.
He never was.
He was a little grumpy that day, and
he
sitting there.
Prided himself on being grumpy.
Oh yeah, he's behind the glass, turning a call, and he's like, "Give me a call," and he's taking our calls one at a time, signing them with a Dremel, and then he looked at my brother and he goes, "Where'd you call?" And my brother was probably 8, maybe. My brother was like, "I've got one on my birthday list for next year, but like I don't have a duck call," and he just went back down, started turning this call. And he came back around the glass and he hands it to my brother and goes, "Now you can tell everybody I'm not an asshole." And I thought that was the coolest thing on the planet. And we were already hooked, but then you have an experience like that with a legend, and then the duck call culture and just duck call in general for me and my family became an absolute obsession from there forward. Like that, it's funny how one experience, and I've always said this about you, and I think this is, I don't think you get touted enough for this, but there is a little bit of ego in all of the hunting world. Like I've experienced it quite a bit with some of these guys, and your approachability and your kindness and humbleness that you show with people, I think has brought more people to duck hunting than you could ever imagine, because you're so approachable and you're just the nicest guy on the planet to people, and you'll sit there and let someone bend your ear, or you'll bend theirs talking about duck hunting. And to me, that's what duck hunting needs, is guys like you who, we love it, we experience it, but we want others to understand what we see and what we feel. And just taking a second to talk to someone and not being too big to do it or too cool is just, it's really cool to see. And I see it especially here, and you're getting grabbed left and right every 5 seconds, and you take time with everyone and talk with them, and it's
well, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I try to, and I appreciate those kind words. I really do. You only got what you got, right?
Yeah.
So I have an extremely lucky individual that I get to make a living with my avocation. My avocation has become my vocation, and I get to go do a lot of things and call it work.
Yeah,
and it's very cool. And that doesn't go soft on me. Those opportunities, I thank the big man for every day.
Yeah,
and somebody wants to talk to me, I want to talk to them. There's times I'm in a hurry, or I got to get from point A to point B and don't have much time. And I always hate to have to say, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I really have to move on. But I always try to give everybody a few minutes if they want to talk or ask a question. Because I've been that guy, too, where I want to stop and talk to somebody else about something different. So, just bottom line, treat folks how you want to be treated. And
that's exactly
you'll go
right.
a long way.
Yep. And that's, I'm not saying it's a big issue, but it's definitely something I've seen over and over, that people don't understand one bad experience can turn somebody off from not only them, but the entire experience, the entire industry. I see it a lot in music. Being a musician and doing just the tiny little bit that I've done. I've not by no means on that level, but I've seen it where these people see these people on TV and they hear their music and they get to meet them and they're just horrific to them. And not only are they done with that, but it's like then they have this fear forever of meeting people like that, because they're nervous because they've just been shut down by someone who they looked up to and someone who was like a hero. And so yeah, I just want to make sure you understood. Everyone thinks that of you, and you've been a massive positive impact for duck hunting.
Great,
and it's cool.
Thank you.
Obviously, a huge transition for you was from R&T to Drake.
Oh man.
And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you're doing at Drake, how you're liking it, what's coming up with Drake, what's some of the new stuff coming down the pipe, things you guys are getting into, because I know, and I can speak to this as well, since you have been there, Drake is a better company. Drake, I think, launched huge, unbelievable business, and I think they, I feel like they kind of begin to lull a little bit and needed a spark, and I think you coming over there has been big. So I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit about what's going on with Drake and how you're liking it, and what the future's holding.
Yeah, man, it's been kind of fun. And to your point there, just telling the story a little bit, the transition from here, being an R&T and all I did here, producing R&TV, coming up with the Mondo and the Rockin' R and all that. And I still like messing with duck calls, don't get me wrong. But it was an opportunity to maybe grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though my background's duck calls, duck hunting, turkey hunting, learned a little bit about TV production, doing R&TV. It's been fun to kind of be over at Drake. With my position, I don't have to get too deep in the weeds with anything, but help support the sales guys, work with the product development folks pretty much hand in hand. I'm not a actual product developer, but here's what I think works kind of guy. And got a great team of folks there: Justin Carpenter, Jacob Anderson, Andy Hope, just do a great job. That's big. So because we duck hunt a lot, there's certain things you like, and I like good stuff. I'm not big on stuff being cheap.
Yep.
So I like good stuff. So that's been fun to be a part of, and then support everything. And we don't have a marketing person directly, so we kind of do that as a team of folks between our senior team, and everybody comes up with ideas, and it's all working right now. And I really feel we got the needle moving. And there's some cool stuff coming this year. Now, there's a lot of concern right now about with all these tariffs and all the stuff comes out of China. And not all of our stuff is in China, but a good bit of it is. But we're not the only ones fighting that same fight. Everybody's in there.
Everybody's fighting it.
But our new BMF line that's coming, the waders, the jackets, everything in that BMF line's high-end, high-quality, really good stuff. I'm super excited about the consumer response to that once folks get their hands on it.
Yeah.
We had a good many samples last year, people wearing it, commenting on it. You always make little tweaks.
Yeah.
That's been fun. The big thing for me, the change between working up here at R&T, working on duck calls, man, I come up with the duck call idea and we can tweak it and blow on it some, and you can have a new model pretty quick. Man, in the apparel world, everything's at the minimum a year out.
Yeah.
If it's something new and you need to test it a year and do something else, you're talking about 2 years plus before it hits the market. So stuff that I started doing when I first started, or working with Justin and the crew on, it's just now starting to hit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been unique in that it takes more time to get it out there. That's been a learning experience, how the apparel industry works. But it's been fun. It's been a big learning curve. Business is business for sure.
Yeah.
But the duck call world and the duck hunting apparel world and turkey hunting apparel world kind of are different. And my other passion being spring turkey hunting, is pretty cool to work with a company, the Old Tom brand and all that we do there.
Yeah. They got some great stuff.
Yeah, man.
It's so good.
New stuff that came this year and then next year. It's cool that I can put my turkey hunting passions behind the brand a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and thankfully, I don't have to make a decision to make a pick between one or the other.
It's been cool seeing all the turkey stuff you've been posting, because I don't think a lot of people knew how into turkey hunting you were and what a big turkey hunter you were, and it's been really cool to see, man.
Very much so. So it's been fun to be a part of that. Fun to work with a new crowd of folks, and just interested to see where it comes and where it goes. So it's exciting times. There's a lot of really good brands out there, and it's kind of like rising. All ships sail on a rising tide.
Yeah.
Right? So, and what's the other was saying? Iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's getting better and better and better. So it's raising the quality across the board.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better time to be an outdoorsman and having an opportunity to get good gear. Hopefully we can keep these tariffs in line, but at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't mind paying extra money for good stuff. I don't think anybody does. Hence, like I said, I don't like cheap stuff. But across the board, there's some good product out there that will keep you warm and dry and allow you to enjoy your time in the outdoors even more.
That's awesome. And that's what it's always been about. Like, I feel like a lot of times I get a bad rap with friends for being like a gearhead, but I'm like, no, like I like to stay dry and warm because it allows me to stay out more and longer, more comfortably. And I'm not getting that I need to get to Waffle House feeling in the back of my mind as quick as I would if I was freezing my tail off.
Right.
You said you brought up the Rockin' R. I love the Rockin' R. It's one of my favorite calls. It's on my lanyard every single year. I got a shelf of probably 250 calls, and out of the 4 on my lanyard, that one makes it every single year.
Awesome.
Love it. And in the music world, there are extremely identifiable sounds. So like Van Halen, you get 10 seconds into a song, it's Van Halen. You get 5 minutes into a Skynyrd song, it's Skynyrd. And that has been that's my favorite thing about you as a duck caller, has been 2 seconds into you blowing a call, it's Jimbo. I don't know if you would agree with this. I think you kind of created a style of blowing a duck call that wasn't really done before you. I always explain to people it's kind of like a bark or like a extremely massive wad of air. But I've always loved that about you, is it sounds like a duck. It's not, I know there's always been these two camps. There's been the, we sound like ducks, we're duck callers, and then there's the we're competition guys, and it's that. And I've always loved, you've always kind of floated in the middle between those two groups, because obviously overly successful duck caller on the call circuit on the you're a world champion duck caller, so you've mastered that world, but you were able to take that and apply it in the woods, which I feel like a lot of people, it's a barrier and they can't. What if you were to describe in a couple sentences, or as long as you want, what your philosophy is on duck calling to kill ducks, what it would be.
Ooh, man, you got enough batteries?
Yeah, it's all plugged in. Everything's powered here. We're not running on batteries. Rock and roll.
You know, that's a great question, Justin. I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that. But let me start off by saying I always tried to apply what I used in the woods on the contest stage and vice versa. Not that I was big on blowing contest hail calls at ducks, but one of my dearest friends, Bobby Joe Willie, first time I hunted with him in the Black River bottoms, a high bunch was coming across the woods, and he reared down on it like he was on stage, and it worked. But for me, to call ducks, you need to somewhat sound like ducks, for sure. But ducks and geese, turkeys, all respond to things that may not be exactly like them. I want to quote one of my other good friends, fellow world champion Mike Anderson. I'm going to borrow it from him. He made a statement one time that sometimes what calls ducks and geese may not sound exactly like ducks or geese, but may be a good character of. And there's something to be said for that. I'm going to give him that. But for me, I always try to read every day. You know, there's calling at ducks and calling to ducks, and you got to call at them before you can call to them. And I say that. Let me give you an example. There, you as a musician, you're standing on the back of the truck playing music, and you're playing a song, and everybody's just still talking, and you know they don't. You can tell if you've got their attention or not. You know they're into it. But once you do something, you're singing at them, and now they turn their attention towards you. Now you're singing to them. Same thing with ducks or turkeys or geese. If I'm blowing it, I got to blow at them. A high bunch of ducks. I'm trying to break them. Pop, 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 pop. And they're just flying. I'm watching for something. I'm watching for them wings to check. I'm watching for maybe a duck turn, or you see a head turn out of a bunch. Really, that check of the wings, that stop. So I'm calling at them until that one point I see that change, and now I am calling to them. So there's a difference there. You can call at them a lot, but you got to learn to call to them. And I was talking with B.C. Rogers with Ren and Ivy a few minutes ago. He was talking about a place that he hunts that's a big cypress break. And he said, man, you can't really blow hard at them. He said, 400 yards away, he said, you want to hit them all you can. He said, you just got to ease into it. And it's kind of like talking to somebody. You got to ease into the conversation sometimes. So my philosophy is always going to be, I'm going to start with what typically sometimes works, and then I'm either going to add to it or take away. And know the idea that every bunch is going to be different.
That's such a good analogy with the music, because I literally last night when I was playing, you know, it's VIP night, so everyone is, you know, there's one or two guys who are silent auction guys, so the attention's normally there because it could come to blows. It gets kind of wild. So I'm very, very background in a thing like last night, but I know I've got my one or two that if I hit them, I know everyone will get quiet and start paying attention. And I've got that one or two that I can hit, and then I know if I can go from there to there. It's putting a set list together, to me, musically, for the musicians listening. It's very, very similar to calling ducks. It's figuring out what works, when it works, how it works. And it's funny, the guy at he said that about that one place he hunts. The main place I hunt is a place called Beaver Dam in Mississippi.
Oh, I've been there.
And it's that same kind of place. You cannot get on them loud. You can't hit on them hard. I mean, like you said, they're 300-400 yards away, and you're trying to just break them at the very last second. You can do that, but if you hit on them hard, they're gone. In that area. Right. I don't know if it's the acoustics to where it just maybe out there it seems way louder than what we're blowing. But if any of us get on it hard, they're out. They don't like it. They want soft, easy, soothing calling, and it's just the way that place is. But then you get other places, and you got, you know, you and Charles Petty scream like as loud, you know, is hammering down as hard as you can, and they are reacting to it great.
It just all depends. And again, every day's different. Weather affects them, barometer affects them, cloudy, rainy, different calls. You just never know. That's kind of why you got to try different stuff. But I'm probably also guilty of overcalling. And it depends on who you're around, like public ground, right? Once you start them, you got to stay on them. You got to keep them listening to
somebody else
you,
will,
and keep them turned pretty tight. Whereas if you're hunting a private stretch, sometime where you can just kind of lay off of them, sometimes just that laying off of them good is all the difference in the world. Just ease into it. Let them tell you what they want. You know, they'll tell you. And again, calling to them versus calling at them is two different things, and learn to read their body language. And you can kind of tell when they like it or when they don't.
Like, I love that you said overcalling is one thing you're kind of guilty of. Even on the deer side, Roger Raglan, he's my favorite hunter in the world ever because of some things that long story short, when my dad was going through cancer, right when I put my record out, I sent my vinyl records to all my heroes, everybody who I know. I sent a bunch to the shop here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember getting them.
And the only two people that I heard from, I sent out, I don't know, maybe 80 or 100. And I know they all received them because I didn't get them back. Y'all reached out and said thanks for sending them. And Roger Raglan called me on my cell phone and talked to me for an hour. And I texted him a couple of weeks later and was like, I just want to let you know how much that meant doing that. And I said, my dad's been going through cancer. If you don't mind, would you send a video? Just a short video, just saying like, hey, Terry, we're thinking about you, whatever. I didn't hear anything from him. I thought it was weird. He posted on Facebook like a week and a half later. He pulled in his production crew, sat at his piano, played this hymn, did this huge long speech about my dad. It ends up going like viral, all this stuff. And, long story short, kind of out of place, but just that's why I think so much of him. And one of my favorite things he's ever said with deer hunting, he's like, don't stop grunting. He's like, I'd rather be guilty all day long of overcalling than having in the back of my mind, if I'd have hit it one more time, he might have come. He might have come in, but he didn't. I'd much rather have that regret than the other side of it. Not enough. I'd rather have too much and know I blew him out of there than I would if I'd have hit it one more time. I could have had him. I don't want that.
Right, and you never know what day that is. You just got to learn to read them. Beauty thing of ducks versus deer, you can maybe kind of watch how them ducks are reacting versus you may not see an old buck deer 100 yards through the woods that you don't know if you grunted at him, he heard you or not. So I get that, and it makes sense. And, one thing I learned with producing outdoor video and TV is you come back and edit and watch through it, and that's when I really realized I was blowing too much.
When you're hearing it back and you're like, oh, my God, there wasn't a moment of silence.
Or you're watching it and you're like, no, I shouldn't have blowed right there. I should have blowed right here. And there's a lot of things you can do over time. Once you start watching birds, you want to turn them in certain points.
Yeah.
Or keep them listening to you. So maybe you want to let them get downwind in good ways. Maybe you don't. It all depends on the area you're hunting and what's going on around you. But use that call to your benefit. Just don't blow at them all the time.
I never thought about that from the TV production side when you're editing footage and when you're going through. Like, it's almost like I've been in the church world for a long time, and I know a lot of times, like on Mondays, we'd rewatch services and why did we say this and why did we do this, and like really learning from it. But I never looked at it like that. That's pretty interesting take that you were able to watch and listen to yourself call because you were filming a TV show and kind of almost correct and figure out where you did wrong, what you could have done better, and learn from it. Whereas, guys like me who aren't like filming TV, we're out there, we're just like, we don't, day's over and there ain't no way to review it. It's done.
And that's probably one of the beauties of it is you kind of get to go back and look, kind of like watching the game film, right? From football teams.
Yeah.
And now what somebody sees on TV or edited hunt, that's not exactly what happened. Because you got to take what you did in a morning or 3 or 4 mornings to condense down to an outdoor television 22 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yep.
So you're not going to see it in real time. So it kind of I think that kind of skews people's minds for how you do call. But that being said, when you go back and watch it and you yep, I screwed them up right there. You just, it gives you an opportunity to rehash.
And I know you've always been kind of the guide for me on this just because you put out so much content, and I don't know if you get told enough, I love your Facebook Lives. That's so great, man. I wish more people did that. Just, it's fun, and you got cool people coming on there, and y'all are talking about real stuff, and it's, it's a really cool thing. I'm glad you're doing it.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I kind of haven't been as consistent. I noticed the last one I done, I don't know if it's the algorithms or what, but I noticed the numbers were down, and I thought, well, that's time of year kind of thing. I tried to announce this and all the contests we got coming up here tomorrow. But it's funny, there for a little while, if you wouldn't do one, I'd get messages. Hey, man, did I miss it? Or even now, you may not have a lot of people while it's live, but you'll a week later you'll get a email from the Meta folks. Hey man, you had 2,500 views this past week.
Yeah.
So it does get some reach. I've been trying to think about if I want to be more consistent, make it a little bit people like more of a podcast type deal. But I like the liveness of it, and I try to call people out. Like I seen your name last week, and you may be carrying on 4 conversations at one time, and that's kind of fun. I like that. So you got to keep reading, and it don't get no more organic than that.
No,
hang on a minute, guys. Let me catch up with the messages here.
Yep, sitting there with your AirPods in, just doing it and just talking with people.
And I enjoy that aspect of it. I think it's fun. I would like to see it grow a little more, but as we get deeper in the summer, I think it will. But thank you for saying so.
Man.
That may be a reason to do it a little better.
Hey, it's people are watching it, and I think whatever you would invest in, whatever gear, whatever to do it, it'd be worth it because it's a great thing, and people watch it. What are you hearing on 25, 26 duck season? I know last night I could hear it winding up. Everybody was. I talked to this one vendor, 30% of rice has been returned and nothing's going to make. We're getting way too much rain. And I know it's early, but I know the preseason panic has begun, which is every year. But what are you hearing? What are you sensing? What are you thinking? Like, how you feeling about 25, 26?
It's too early to tell, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Nat foods will be good again, I think, this year. I say natural foods. There's a lot of stuff didn't get planted. Although that said, we still got, overflow in the White and Cache River basins, Biomeda basins. So there's a lot of stuff. If we don't get that water off soon, it's going to be pretty bland.
Yeah.
But if that water will get off there, we'll have a really good natural response. The weeds. And that's one I want to point out here. Everybody worries about rice and corn and milo and all the cool hot foods that ducks love to eat. But remember, they were eating weeds and grass seed before modern agriculture was on the ground.
Yep.
So don't ever be thinking that, oh, man, all I got's a bunch of grass. That's what they was eating.
Yeah, that's
what they had. So the natural foods will probably be good again. My concern is all this water in the river bottoms and on our GTRs is timber health.
Yeah,
that's a huge issue for me. Hopefully we'll have an acorn crop. So keep in mind your red oak acorns aren't from last year; they're from the previous year. So an acorn crop is from 2 years ago. So that's really important to us, is having a good red oak acorn crop. I really don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball. There's also a lot of talk about, duck populations. So we're coming up here. It's late May. The May pond counts and breeding pair population is happening right now. The bee pop and May pond counts is going on right now. So we're starting to hear some information pretty quick this next week. Then we'll get to print out in August, time they compile all that information. Ducks were up just a fuzz last year. Looking at the habitat on the breeding grounds, about the same as last year. We just recently got some late rains.
Yeah.
May be too late for major production, but it may be good for second nesting attempts. Which mallards, pintails, teal especially were pretty good about second nesting attempts. That'll be helpful. Then the big thing's going to be weather. We need weather. Just did a interview with Dr. Mike Brasher with DU for an upcoming RNTV episode.
Oh, cool.
Talking about mallard distribution.
Yeah.
This area is still the middle of it, still the center. You hear a lot of people talk about duck migration changing, or they're going to Oklahoma, they're going here. It has widened somewhat, yet this is still the center, and this is still the highest harvest area. Now, you could argue pressure causes a bunch of that, but you can kind of see where ducks have changed a little bit. Not a lot, but this area's, the center may have shifted a touch north, but it's still here. So back to that, photo period is kind of the main driver of migration.
Yeah.
Now, I'm jumping all around here, but if
go for it.
If you take photo period, December 21st is shortest day of the year, right? That's the winter solstice. Daylight starts getting longer. We know that photo period, daylight getting shorter, spawns migration. Spawns deer rutting, turkeys gobbling, all that sort of stuff. So as you look at that and you look at how the weather systems have changed on either side of that, we're not getting the big weather pushes in early to mid-December. And, you know, all the old-timers used to always say, if you ain't got your ducks by Christmas, you probably not going to get them. And there's a lot of truth in that. Now, that said, there is a little bit later shift in January, but it's got to get bad. And they're not staying long because, in their mind, daylight's getting longer. They're starting to think about turning around. Now, we've all seen them beautiful first week in January polar vortex freezes.
Oh, yeah.
You've had a little push from the south. Daylight's getting longer, and you got that last final push from the north. That doesn't happen all the time.
We got caught in that 2 years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago in Mississippi.
It can be fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome, man. It was blizzard and it was awesome. It was
just
the best.
fun.
So we backed our trip up. We used to go MLK week and around in there. Now we're like December 14th through the 20th. Like that's really like our big trip out here in Mississippi. That's when we backed it up to because he kept telling us year after year. My buddy David, you got to come early. You got to come earlier. It keeps getting better and better early. And I was like, ain't no way. And then finally 2 years ago, he pulled his books out and was reading the counts. And I was like, sold. Fine. I'll come early now. You know, it's hard for me because I got a 7 and a 5-year-old, and that's when Christmas plays are and all the stuff at school. You know, that week before we let out for Christmas is really hard. But I'm getting excited because 7 and 5 means they're about 2-3 years away from they're going to be on the trips with me.
They'll be hunt buddies.
And my son, Brooks is already tearing it up, man. Killed his first big doe at 7 last year. And I did want to get on that a little bit and just what you think as a culture, what we need to be doing to getting kids more involved in duck hunting. I know deer hunting's a whole lot easier because it's safer. You know, they climb up in a redneck blind or whatever. They're sitting there. They can got their coloring books, whatever. Like, I get why deer hunting's so much easier and turkey hunting for kids, and I feel like duck hunting, the age is a little bit older to get into it, but I feel like we've got to start that. And it's cool at Callapalooza. I've been seeing some kids. I brought my son at 5. He came and hung out, and he had a blast. It was like the latest he'd ever stayed up. We were playing pool at the Hilton at 11 o'clock at night. You know, it was a blast. But what do you think we need to be doing as duck hunters and as fathers to start getting our kids into it earlier? Are there certain places you think are better than other, or type of hunts? Like, what's going to be the best way for somebody listening who's got a kid, you know, to get them going in duck hunting?
Great question. I don't know that I have all those answers, but I can tell you a little what I've seen. I talk about my daughter and other kids. One, take them hunting.
Yep.
Get them out there, get them exposed to it, let them have fun. Don't force them. And I tried really not to force my daughter into it. Don't be, no, honey, I don't care if your feet's cold. We're gonna be here a minute. We're hunting. Don't do that. Let them have fun. Take plenty of snacks. The other thing is try to help them be successful. I'm going to use John's son Reese as an example. His very first duck ever was on a TV show. I forget the episode, and it was a pintail hen that he shot on the water.
Dang.
And he took. There were some comments when the show aired. Naturally, people were kind of hating on it. But here's the whole point there. I get it, you know, about not shooting hens, and some folks have an issue with shooting ducks on the water. But we had tricked that duck. She come in there and lit just as pretty, and Reese shot her, and he was successful. Now, he could have shot 3 times at that duck and missed it, but he was successful.
Yeah.
He was successful. He's got time to learn the rest of that, but he was successful. I think that was important. And of course, he grew up in a hunting family, the farm and whatnot. He was going to be a duck hunter probably regardless. But that sped it along, and John took him all the time.
Yep.
If Reese wanted to go hunting, John went, or if John took him. I think that's what most of us need to do. Now, pick the weather a little bit. If it's going to be pouring down, raining,
that ain't the day.
And you know, no, son, you may want to stay home today.
Yeah.
You know, Justin and I are going today.
Yep.
But if they keep really wanting to go, get them some good gear. Let them go. Let them go enjoy it. My daughter was kind of different. Nowadays, she loves it. And she went a time or two as a young girl. I never forced her to.
Yeah.
But at one time in my life, especially with ducks and turkeys, I think she kind of resented it because that was my job, took me away from home, whatnot.
I get that.
I never forced her, but now she wants to go. She enjoys it. Her and her buddies, when she's in college, we started a girls' hunt in some of her college,
cool.
and it's every year now. It's a tradition. Martin Luther King weekend, we're doing the girls' hunt.
That's
They're
so
all
awesome.
coming in, and now these girls are working, got jobs. They're out of grad. Some of them are out of grad school, got their master's degrees. Talking about getting married, la la la. But they want to come do the girls' hunt every January. We had a couple of them at the house last night talking about it, and then this year we started the inaugural girls' spring turkey hunt.
Yep.
So it's really fun seeing they're young women now, but they want to get in the outdoors. They don't want to go every day, but they want to go. They want to talk about it. They want to be a part of the lifestyle. They want to enjoy it, and that's a good thing. So one of these days, they're going to be moms.
Yeah.
They're going to be wives, and they're going to have an appreciation for the outdoors and going hunting and doing things. I think that's important that we try to hopefully instill that in our children's minds, but we got to expose it to them first and make it be fun. And, some are going to be, it becomes, I'm addicted to it. I got to go every day.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to be that, but they have to have an appreciation for it. But the more you take them, the more you get them around it, the more they're successful, the more they enjoy the lifestyle. Your buddies, that treat them like respectfully and enjoy their time in the field. I think that's going to make them want to go more. And then also let's try to teach them a little bit. BC and I was talking a while ago about some things, and a lot of these young guys, things they don't know, and they may not have grew up in a hunting family.
Yeah.
They may be hunting because they see it on Instagram and think it's fun, but nobody's really told them right from wrong or what's good morals or good ethics.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot.
Yeah, and you see it more and more.
And I think it is. I think some of it is the draw of. I think social media has had a lot to do with it, and you're right. Some of it could be them seeing hunting, not growing up in it, don't have the foundation and the base. So, like with anything, if you build something without a strong foundation, without a strong base, it's in trouble no matter what it is. If it's a business or like a hobby, doesn't matter. It's going to be in trouble. And I think some of that is, but I also think some of that is I've got to do that. Like, I have to be successful here no matter what it takes. Like, throw the morals aside, throw everything, because if I don't get to post this on Instagram or whatever, I'm going to be in trouble. And it's that side of hunting has got to die. It has to die.
It's got to be more about the log shot. You know, I laughed here a couple years ago, and I don't know who posted it. If I could remember them, I'd mention their name. But it was a cool photo making light of what we just talked about. It was like the end of last day of duck season, and they was in the woods, and they took all their decoys and stacked them up on a log and took a picture.
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious. But we all like to have heavy straps.
Oh heck yeah!
I like to have a good picture of me and my buddies, and we got stringers of ducks. That's fun. I love to smell burnt powder, and I like my dog to be tired. That said, there's just so much more to it.
Yep.
Learn to respect the resource. Without that waterfowl resource, we're not here. We're not doing this. This is not going on. So take care of the resource first.
Yep.
Get our youngsters to understand that it's not just there for the taking. We got to put some back.
Yep.
Or we got to at least appreciate it and try to make it prosper. And then get them where they enjoy everything about what goes into duck hunting. And I think what's cool about duck hunting to a lot of folks, myself, is when we're standing against a tree trying to break that high bunch of ducks, or we're trying to finish that bunch of ducks, you got to be hid, you got to be careful, you got to be stealthy. But after that, man, we can be talking and getting along, cooking breakfast, doing whatever, and all the gear that goes into duck hunting. Man, if you like stuff, man, trucks, boats, guns.
Coming out here every year is a problem. It's a problem for me. This morning's been rough. I even had a guy comment. I was walking by. I got some calls from John. I was walking by, and some guy was like, "Dang, you've had a big morning." I was like, "This is not good. I'm gonna be in trouble when I get home." When we review this credit card bill coming from Kalapalooza, because there's something about duck hunting gear that I can't get enough. I want it all.
I get it. And, as we get our kids involved in that, especially seems like the boys, maybe more than the girls, that are kind of, they lean that way. Anyway, I think that's a big draw. And if we can keep moving with that, we can know full well that when we're gone, that we got somebody picking the ball up and running with it.
Yep, and that's so important to me. I wrote an article for GON about my son's first deer, and that's what I ended it with. I said, O'Neal Williams, real famous radio guy from the Georgia era. He always said, if you're too busy to take a kid hunting and fishing, then you're just too busy. That was his catchphrase for 40 years, and I live by that, man. And I've said I'm tired of filling my walls with trophies that'll collect dust for me. Like, I'd rather not pull the trigger for 6 years and get my kids out there and get them hunting. Mm-hmm. It's more important to me to get them into it and get them moving. Then I get my second win when they go on their own trips by themselves. I go back on my trips. I can get a second win and do whatever. But like, I'm ready. I'm ready to see that happen in your career, because it's been a long one, and it's been a essentially like a peak the entire time. Like, you have just been like, once you got up on top, you've stayed up there, and everything you've done. And what to you has been the most rewarding? I know it's a hard question, but the most rewarding part of what you've done with Rich and Tone, with Drake, hunting with the people you've hunted with, the travels that you've done. What's been the most rewarding thing? Maybe experience. It can be an experience or the most rewarding thing you've taken from it. Like, however you want to answer it, but just like, what's been the thing that you've loved the most out of what you've been able to do?
Man, that is a tough one, Justin. There's been so many cool things that I've gotten to see and do, places I've gotten to go that I would have never had the opportunity to go to without having a duck call or a turkey call.
Yeah.
That it took me there. But I'm going to say, more than anything, it's the friends I've made around the country.
Yep.
I pull my phone out and scroll. If I'm traveling, may not always be somebody right there, but if I'm traveling north or south through the middle of the country, I'm not going to be far from somebody that if I need a place to go to bed that night or need somebody to help me or point me in the right direction, hey, I've broke down, who can I call in this area? They're on that phone.
Yep.
And those friendships last forever. I was talking to a guy the other day. We were talking about this very thing. He said, I really hadn't known him that long, but I feel like I've known him and his family forever. And there's several folks like that. And try to communicate that the year, but you can't always stay up with folks. So it may be somebody you hadn't talked to in 5-6 months, and you just pick up where you left off. And without duck calling, duck hunting, turkey calling, I'd have never made that many friends, that many folks.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm going to say that's probably been the biggest takeaway.
And I think that's the thing, the culture that dislikes us for what we do, for hunting. I feel like the thing that they miss, and I wish they could spend one night in camp with a group of guys or a group of girls, whatever. I wish they could spend just one night and understand that, it's not just the kill. It's not that 3 seconds right there. It's for me, it's even like, we got a trip coming up, talking about it, getting excited about it, laying out all the gear that I've got, getting it organized, getting the truck loaded. All that to me is part of it, and what I think gets missed a lot. And the thing that really, I told this to Jim when me and him did a podcast a couple weeks ago. I said, you don't realize that until it's gone. I said, because it's not, no one's died, nothing like that. But I went on a deer hunting trip to Ohio. Some guys invited me, and I didn't know him well enough to be able to, like, hey, can I bring my dad? Can I bring my brother? So I just went by myself, hotel room by myself, and hunted for 7 straight days. And day 3, people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this. I was depressed. And I realized planning where you're going to go, what stand are you going to sit in, how you going to hunt it, going to eat lunch, going to eat dinner, doing the post after the hunt. Everyone's sitting like, oh, he can't. All that was gone, and I realized, like, I had always known this, but feeling that for the first time, I was like, man, that's 90% of the experience is the camaraderie and building friendships and walking into camp and there being 3 guys you never met. And by the time you leave, you feel like you've known them for 10 years. It's
exactly.
Like last night, I was sitting here talking to 2 guys. One of the guys owns the bowling alley in Stuttgart, and then there's another guy. And no one's on their phones. No one's sitting there staring. Like, everyone's just talking and hanging out and meeting new people. And that is one thing that I'll say the hunting community and duck hunters are getting right now is building relationships with people and not being afraid to strike up a conversation with someone who you have no idea who they are, especially at events like this, because you got all these guys who've driven a long way, and you can't just be alone for 3 days, like sitting in the corner. Like, you got to be involved and get in with people.
You bet.
Yep.
We mentioned the girls hunt a while ago. At the girls turkey hunt this spring, it was fun just sitting there and step back. I was just the guy on the ground there, but I just stepped back and just watched and listened, and you could see how much they enjoyed their company and what they talked about and what everything they were doing. And that's a big part of it. That's what brings folks together.
Yep.
And like you said, they weren't sitting there looking at their phones or doing this or that. They were living and going to the woods, turkey gobbling. They getting excited, and that's why they go. And just understanding to be quiet or whatnot. Again, if I just had to take it all away, the great hunts, the cool places, it's the cool people.
Well, before we get out of here, there's one thing I wanted you to do. I've heard you do it a couple times, and it's out of everything you've done, it's probably the most memorable thing I've heard from you. If you could describe for me and for the people who are listening at home what the perfect duck hunting morning is to you, and it's funny because it's so dead on. I remember the first time. I remember where I was. Not to be weird, I remember where I was at in the truck. I remember what podcast I was listening to. I remember I was about to go over a railroad track, and when you said it, it was like I was sitting there. You took me there. So to kind of take us out, I would love for you, if you can, to describe what the perfect duck hunting morning is to you and what that looks like.
Man, okay, let me see if I can do this here. So we'll be hunting Arkansas river bottoms, hunting White or Cass river bottoms somewhere. You get up in the morning, it's cold, clear, nice wind blowing, 10 mile an hour or so out of the south, southwest, pretty chilly, not super cold, but high 20s, low 30s, Stick the boat in the water, motor warming up, smelling that two-stroke smoke, getting the dog out of the truck, getting the boat. Hear him get in the boat. All right, folks, y'all sit down here, get your life jackets. Remember, y'all, we get in the woods now. Keep your head down. Don't grab no limbs. Keep your hands inside the boat. Get in the woods. Have a good hunt. Break some high ducks. Have a nice spirited boat ride. Not into boat racing, but I like good spirited boat rides in the bottoms. Just have a good hunt. Have some great dog work. I'm fortunate to have a couple really nice dogs. Break some high ducks. Don't want to tap them too fast. I've had some really quick hunts, but I like them to, shoot a limit of ducks and be done by 8:30, 9 o'clock. Just enjoy the hunt, enjoy the morning, take pictures, get the decoys picked up. Always fun after a limit hunt. Everybody's splashing people with decoys.
Oh, yeah.
That's happening. Get in the boat, have that spirited boat ride back to the truck. Get to the house or the shop. Have that after hunt cold beer, clean ducks, get your ducks clean, have a couple beers. By then you're good and hungry. And you've been sitting by that wood stove, and you go in the house, and Mama Rosie got that big old pot of barley duck soup on the stove. You can smell that cooking, and get you a belly full of that on top of them after the hunt cold beers.
I'm ready.
And then you're ready for a nap.
That's the day right there. That's it.
That's it.
That's all we ever want. If there was a book about what duck hunting is supposed to be, that's it right there.
Yep. Wake up from that nap, get in the truck, go scout for the next day, and do it again.
Oh, yeah. Getting out there and just watching them.
That's right. That's the whole deal, man. It's fun. Then the people you get to experience that with and things you get to do, it's those little things. That going home and, like I said, you go to shop, build a fire and a stove, and clean your ducks, have a couple after hunt cold beers, and go in the house and eat a big lunch. And Rosie in there, how'd it go, guys? Jenna Bug, how'd it go, Daddy? Just it's all right. Those little things is what pulls us all together.
Yep. Right.
And there's so many people miss out on that. And that's to me, that's the perfect duck hunting day.
I love it, man. Well, 3:30 in the morning. First morning of the season is coming soon. Not as soon as I'd like, but it's on the horizon. getting ready for it. And I'm hoping when all the reports and everything starts flowing out the next couple weeks, please do some Facebook Lives. And when you start seeing those numbers, going through them and letting everybody know what's going on. Because I know a lot of people look at you to kind of indicate and kind of see what kind of season we're going to be having. And I really, really want to say thanks for doing this. I know Callapalooza's wide open. You got a million things going on, and you took time to do this with me. And I cannot explain to you how appreciative I am of it. And thank you for doing this, Jimbo. I appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, bud. Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely, man. Heck yeah. All right.